Focus is a critical part of high performance, and some people have made claims that quiet eye is the most important part of focus, a longer quiet eye resulting in better performance. In this video, I'm going to go through 4 different quiet eye studies and share how you could use this science in your own coaching. But first, what is quiet eye? Dr. Jones Vickers is one of the leading researchers and has written a book all about quiet eye. Quiet eye duration was defined as the portion of the final fixation from onset to the first observable movement of the hands into the shooting action. This is from the first study looking at golfing performance. They compared different levels of golfing putting. The higher skill golfers use a variable form of gaze control in which longer fixation durations on the ball and target were observed, and there were fewer fixations on the club and surface, which suggests the higher skilled golfers were looking at different things to the lower skilled golfers, but also for longer periods of time. Joan goes on to write, during the acquisition of the putting skill, there are changes in gaze control, characterized by economy in the number of gaze shifts, the development of priority to specific gaze locations, and economy in the allocation of time between preferred gaze locations. So the decisions about what and when to look at things was also more effective. Higher skilled golfers having developed these skills through training and practice. But this is golf putting. In this second study, they compared expert and non-expert basketball players' free throw shots. As you can see in figure 3, the experts has a much longer preparation phase, whereas the near expert's gaze was longer during the shot and ball flight. Looking at figure 4, we can see the type of gaze behaviour during those phases. Near experts moving their heads and blinking more in the preparation phase, experts moving their heads and blinking more in the shot and flight phase. So we could say preparation time with less movement is better. However, when we look at figure 8, you can see the mean duration of quiet eye for the experts is higher for the hits. That's kind of expected. But the mean duration of quiet eye for the non-experts was higher for the misses. Granted, the difference is quite minimal, but that shows there is more to performance than just quiet eye. It begs the question, can quiet eye be trained to help the near experts perform like experts? In this basketball training study, quiet eye was defined as the player's final fixation on the hoop or backboard prior to the shooting action. They selected a team to do some quiet eye training with for 2 seasons. At the end of the season, 2 other teams were picked for comparison. In season 1, Team B came first and Team C came second, while Team A, the team being trained quiet eye, didn't reach the final 8. Then, in season 2, Team C came first, Team B came fourth, but Team A, the team being trained quiet eye, came second. When we look at free throws made in each season, we can see Team A improved a lot in season 1, but there was a huge improvement in season 2. However, there are quite a few limitations with these results. Team A had a 50% carryover from season 1 to season 2. Half their team changed between the seasons, and the high accuracy of the new players was surprising. Joan writes, the current study does not provide evidence that changes in QE duration and relative shot duration detected in pre and post tests were carried forward to the games. There was also no data about Team B or Team C's training, so the lack of improvement in free throws for Team B and C could have been because they just didn't practice free throws that much. Then for Team A, the increase could have been because the new players were better than the players in the past. But it's also worth noting the 3-step process the QE training routine was for Team A. Stand on the line, look at the hoop, bounce the ball 3 times, and then say nothing but net. This isn't part of quiet eye duration, but was still trained. Next, hold the ball, look at the hoop for about 1.5 seconds, say sight focus and look at the front, middle, or back of the rim. This would be part of the preparation phase, but the words aren't part of quiet eye, but they could help with attention. Then they were told to shoot with a quick fluid action. They didn't need to look at the hoop at this point, but that relates to the gaze behaviours through the shot. But without the vision testing during the games, the quiet eye couldn't be measured, hence Jones' statement about not providing evidence. But the three-step process could go beyond the quiet eye fixation. When we look at this hockey study, the results bring up an important question for application in training. The focus was on goaltenders. Once again, longer quiet eye duration correlates with higher performance. The ability to maintain prolonged QE fixation on the puck stick within 3 degrees of the visual angle from early in the preparation of the shot until a shot period after release of the puck. But save percentage was 10% lower in the study than in match situations. So goaltenders made more saves in a match with more players, stakes, and situations to consider. I personally would argue it's because it was easier for the shooters in the study than in a match situation, and the shooters needing to act differently. In addition to this, goaltenders in hockey didn't look at the shooter's body. Their focus was on the stick or puck. But in goalkeepers in football, they seem to look at the non-kicking foot. Thinking back to the golf study and the comments about quiet eye, knowing what and when to look for information. Joan writes, from a theoretical approach, these differences would fit within the constraints-led approach, which states that the constraints, organism, environment, and task affect how a skill is performed and how the gaze is controlled. The different constraints in the study affecting how the shooter behaved. So, more preparation time, in milliseconds, less movement during that time, but also knowing what and when to look at different information sources can improve performance. The changes in information sources suggesting it isn't a total fixation, but fluctuations. Rob Gray's 2018 paper for baseball batting angles explored this in practice. Through 6 weeks of training, batters were asked to pay attention to different things. Intentional cues from expert coaches to help batters hit the ball higher. Their focus on where the body is moving. Then external cues, and then the constraints-led approach mentioned in the hockey study. CLA training involved adding the constraints of a barrier that must be hit over and adjusting barrier distance and heights based on performance. So instead of verbal cues, points, or instructions, there was an object in the way. Following the 6 weeks training, the CLA group had significantly higher launch angle, higher exit velocity, more fly balls, and more home runs as compared with the other two groups. Education of intention, what the batters are trying to do, and education of attention, where the batters could find the most useful information, helped improve performance. Rob Gray also said this in a popular video last year.
The lowest hanging fruit, I would say, is, adding variability.
And in this video, I talk about Jenny Busick's advice on adding variability into practice.